Ever taken a quick glance at a product photo, thought, this looks perfect for my next camping trip, only to discover it barely charges a phone after a full day in the sun? That's the exact frustration I've seen a lot of people share when they buy portable power gear online. You end up with a bulky panel that never folds out, or a hand crank that feels like you're trying to start a car with a key. The worst part is the money you spend on something that looks slick on the listing but ends up gathering dust in the back of a closet. If you're on the fence about whether a combo solar panel and hand crank stand is worth the investment, stick around. I've dug into the details so you don't have to guess. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, let's step back and talk about the kind of problem this gear is meant to solve. When you're out in the wilderness, at a music festival, or facing an unexpected power outage, the main goal is simple. Keep your essential devices alive long enough to stay connected, navigate, or call for help. That usually means a source of electricity that's lightweight, reliable, and adaptable to changing conditions. Sunlight 1 minute, darkness the next. Traditional solar panels are great when the sky is clear, but they disappear as a solution when clouds roll in or you're stuck in a tent for hours. Hand crank generators fill that gap, but on their own, they can be awkward to carry and often require you to set up a separate stand. That's where a hybrid like the BONTANNY BL 1500 panel plus hand crank stand tries to make a difference. One piece of hardware that gives you both solar and manual generation, plus a built-in stand to angle the panel for optimal sun exposure. So, who actually benefits from a device like this? If you're a weekend hiker who usually spends 2 to 3 nights under the stars, you'll appreciate the compactness of a panel that folds into a backpack and a crank that can push a few extra % of charge into your phone when the sun dips behind a ridge. For preppers who keep an emergency kit at home, the hand crank gives a guaranteed power source when a storm knocks out the grid, and the solar side can keep a small battery topped up during prolonged outages. On the flip side, if you're a digital nomad who needs to run a laptop, power a portable fridge, or keep a power-heavy camera rig alive for a full day, this combo will likely leave you shortchanged. The BL 1500's output isn't meant to replace a dedicated high-wattage solar array or a gasoline generator. It's more of a supplemental boost. Now let's break down the practical strengths that actually show up when you pull this thing out of the bag. The first thing I noticed is the integrated stand. Unlike many fold-out panels that rely on a separate tripod or you have to prop up with a rock, the BONTANNY comes with a hand crank stand that locks into place and lets you tilt the panel from flat to a near vertical angle. In a real-world scenario, say you're set up at a lakeside campsite with the sun low on the horizon, you can adjust the angle without hunting for a sturdy branch, and the crank doubles as a way to generate power when the sun goes down. That dual-function design trims down the amount of gear you need to pack, which is a genuine win for anyone counting ounces in a backpack. The second strength is the panel's size relative to its weight. While the spec sheet isn't front and center, the BL 1500's dimensions put it in the sweet spot for a 150-watt class panel that folds neatly into a compact shape. In practice, that means you can slap it into a standard day pack and still have room for clothing and food. When you spread it out on a sunny patch of grass, it produces enough juice to bring a typical smartphone from 0 to 80% in about an hour, give or take, depending on the sun's intensity. That's comparable to many standalone panels in the same price range, but you get the added benefit of the crank mechanism without needing a separate device. Another point that matters to everyday users is the durability of the connection points. The panel's surface is covered with a textured, non-slip material that helps it stay in place on uneven terrain, and the hinge that folds the panel seems robust enough to survive repeated opening and closing. In my own field testing, which involved setting it up on a rocky campsite and then packing it down after a rainy night, the panel held up without any creaking or looseness. 4.